Hi guys, welcome back to Thursday Top Lessons. Hope you liked the video so far. Please do subscribe to our channel. This week we are going to discuss psychology, the psychology of influence, the psychology of persuasion. Written by Robert B. Cialdini, this book is based on participant observation where the author experienced different jobs, conversations to figure out a key question in our lives. What is it that makes us comply to certain requests or people more than others? The answer to this question lies in the fact that our brains are also wired to an algorithm which is basically developed by your experiences or societal teachings. So everything that we do is a click, which is a stimuli or a trigger, and whir, action or reaction, basis the algo. The way we are going to structure this video is in terms of certain short principles and their applications. So here it goes. So the first principle that we are going to talk about is the contrast principle. We tend to compare two things or events that occur in series and enhance or demean the second event basis the first. Imagine walking into a wardrobe store. What does the salesman offer you first? Is it the suit or the shirt? The shirt, even if it is a costly one for a shirt, seems to be cheap compared to a suit. So the salesman always offers you the suit first. This is exactly why car dealers upsell the accessories for a price which is contrasting to a car for you after the car sale is closed. So you know what to offer first in your next selling expedition. The second rule is the rule of reciprocation. Much obliged has become a replacement for thank you. The ancient rule designed for equal exchanges generally leads to unequal gains. Reciprocal arrangements are also vital in our social system that we feel uncomfortable when we are beholden. So a thank you or a much obliged goes a long way. Next, we are going to talk about something known as reciprocal concession. If a requester gives a concession on the request, we tend to comply to his or her concession. Rejection, then retreat, is a technique that acts on the first contrast technique, as we feel the second offer is much easier or cheaper and we must do at least that much for the person as we are unable to comply to the first request. The next principle critical in influencing anybody is commitment and consistency. Now, once we commit to something or we put our money into it, we tend to be more optimistic and confident about the outcome as we feel we have to be consistent with the commitment. The Chinese used it beautifully on American prisoners of war during the Korean War. They made them write why they are happy in China, why China is good. And once the prisoners of war wrote that, they tended to be more committed and consistent with what they had themselves written. Same is the case with organizations that run contests like where they ask customers to write why their product is better than others in 50 words or less. Public commitment is quite a strong click. The tougher the initiation ceremony, the more lucrative and meaningful we find the groups. Consider the case of roadies. The stupid initiation ceremony of physical or verbal abuse leads people to believe that being a roadie brings a certain sense of respect. The next principle is social proof. We tend to deem behavior as correct depending upon the social setting. For example, the bartenders, they generally salt their tip jars with a few dollars, simulating us to think that tipping is an appropriate behavior here. This increases their earning. This also has an application when we find that there is X number of months waiting for a car to be delivered. It makes us think that a lot of people would want it. It must be something right. And thus, the product lifecycle adoption chart depicts that the major population lies in the early majority and the late majority phase. An important point to note here is that if there is no change in the physical evidence, the social evidence has to be changed for compliance to be there in place. This is very true for all the rebranding exercises and strategies that take place. The next principle that we are going to talk about is liking. We generally tend to comply with the request of someone who we know and like. For example, a Tupperware party comes as a request from a friend or a neighbor. They've mostly shut their retail outlets and have a Tupperware party start every 2.7 seconds in the US. So what are the factors to likeness? How can we be the most liked salesperson? The factors to likeness are physical attractiveness, that is why sales reps are seen well dressed. Similarity, people resonate more with their similar ethnic groups. Compliments, we are phenomenal suckers for flattery. Contact and cooperation. Conditioning and association. Important point to note in association is that the messenger gets killed if the news is bad. Brand endorsements say that association doesn't have to be a logical one, but a positive one. The next principle that we're going to talk about is authority. We rarely agonize over pros and cons of an authority's demand. This happens mostly because sometimes it is beneficial for us and other times they just control our rewards and punishments. The three authority symbols that tend to produce the maximum compliance are titles. We also tend to see size and status as relevant. Clothes, again very important to be well dressed and presentable. And trappings of authority. This means someone who has not earned the title formally but is perceived as a figure of authority. Next, an important principle is scarcity. We are more motivated by the thought of losing something than by thought of gaining something of the same value. Hence the limited edition comics, coins and whatnot. As opportunities become less available, we lose our freedom and we hate to lose our freedom. Competition coupled with scarcity enhances the impact. Very often while making a decision, we don't use all the relevant information available. We use instead only a single, highly representative piece of the total. So to close, to use this to your advantage or prevent conceding to any unwanted advantage, the only way is to be cognizant of these principles, of these unconscious biases, and rewire your brain with constant feedback.